Some hoaxes are too silly to live, yet too weird to die. The investigation into the JFK assassination produced many bizarre tributaries. None are more bizarre than the Ritzek Diary. I'm not saying that this diary is the key to the mystery. In fact, I'm not claiming that it has any importance at all. I'm simply saying that this is a very strange tale. Students of the JFK case discuss the Ritzek Diary only rarely, mostly in private. Yet the sheer zaniness of this thing makes it unforgettable. We begin our story on August the 15th, 1964, 9 months after the assassination. We are in downtown Los Angeles, in the Continental Trailways bus station. A ticket clerk steps away from the desk for a few seconds. When he returns, he finds that someone has placed a handwritten diary on the desk. Even though it's a private diary, he reads it. And he is so shocked by what he reads, he shows it to his boss. The boss calls in the FBI. Special Agent Philip Diley sends the diary on to Washington. There, at least 2 copies are made. One for the CIA's Office of Security, the other for the FBI itself. Obviously, important people took this thing very seriously. Warren Commission Document 1546 features the report of FBI agent Robert Gimberling, who investigated the diary. Gimberling could find no proof of Eric Ritzek's existence. The name did not appear in any Los Angeles phone book, or in the court system, or in credit bureau records. My online research indicates that the only Americans named Ritzek live in or near the state of New York. Since the manuscript was found in a bus station, I'm guessing that someone traveled all the way across country by bus, dumped this manuscript on the desk, then turned right around. This manuscript tells the story of Eric Ritzek and his companion Charles, whose last name we never learn. They are 2 young college students with an obnoxiously Nietzschean sense of superiority. They decide to murder President Kennedy, simply to prove that they can do such a thing and get away with it. The characters of Eric and Charles are obviously modeled on Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb. They were 2 arrogant young intellectuals who, in 1924, tried to commit the perfect murder simply to prove that they could. This infamous homicide inspired several books and movies, including Alfred Hitchcock's 1948 film Rope and Meyer Levin's 1956 novel Compulsion, which Hollywood adapted in 1959. There's another obvious inspiration: The Manchurian Candidate, Richard Condon's classic novel, published in 1959, filmed in 1962. That story is about a hypnotically programmed assassin. In the diary, Eric takes 1 course in hypnosis and instantly becomes both all-powerful and homicidal. He calls himself the Master Craftsman. That's one of the phrases he repeats obsessively, the Master Craftsman. Other phrases are tools, evermore, nevermore, and everlasting. The constant repetition of these words becomes rather creepy. Although Ritzek claims to be a hypnotist, much of the text looks like automatic writing. That is, writing produced by someone who has himself been placed in a trance. The first victim of our 2 master craftsmen is a young woman named Carol. After ravishing poor hypnotized Carol, Ritzek uses the power of suggestion to murder her by making her heart beat slower and slower until it stops. Charles receives thousands of dollars from an unnamed benefactor in Texas. The 2 go off in search of the right tool to use in their scheme to murder the president. On September the 20th, they meet Oswald in New Orleans. Eric habitually refers to him as Lee Harvey Oswald, using all 3 names. Actually, that's what the newspapers called him. In life, Lee Oswald did not customarily use his middle name when he introduced himself.
The person, Lee Oswald, Secretary of the New Orleans Chapter to the Fair Play for Cuba Committee.
Here's what Eric has to say about Oswald. After I had a chance to observe him, I found him to be likable on the surface, but he really is a despondent little worm. Professes to be a communist or some such thing. To induce a communist to kill the incumbent American president will be a real test of my abilities. Poor Charles. How he envies my power over little toys. On September the 26th, Eric and Charles travel with Oswald by bus to Mexico. In real life, we know the names of everyone who was on that bus. The name Eric Ritzek is not on the list. From the September 28 entry, I worked all this day with him. Lee Harvey Oswald, Lee Harvey Oswald, Lee Harvey Oswald. I must enter that name in this record. In real life, Oswald kept himself very busy on September the 27th and 28th. That's when he made several bizarre visits to the Soviet and Cuban consulates in Mexico City. It is a fascinating and truly important story, and I may tell it in another video, but right now let's stay focused on the diary. Some of Ritzek's October entries are mistakenly dated 1964, not 1963. No one keeping a diary would confuse the current year with the year to come. However, someone faking a diary after the fact might make that error. So in all likelihood, the whole manuscript was written in 1964. The writing degenerates into madness. The entry for October the 22nd fills 3 pages with bizarre doodles, geometric figures combined with pseudo-Asian characters. Soon we have nothing but this. The October the 23rd entry returns to normal, or at least as close to normal as Eric Ritzek ever gets. The boys have gone to Dallas. Charles's mysterious benefactor has sent them $100,000 in cash for the purpose of engineering the death of JFK. That's the equivalent of $1 million in today's money. We are supposed to believe that someone would pay this sum to 2 unknown college kids who had used hypnosis for the very first time the previous month. On November the 11th, Eric and Charles walk the route that Kennedy will take when he visits the city. In real life, the route had not yet been released. We finally come to the fatal day, which Eric calls, and I'm not making this up, the day of the thump. As pretentious as he is slovenly, the diarist writes out the entire date, November the 22nd, 1964. Wrong year. Again. Here's the key moment from the diary. Why doesn't Oswald fire? Has he been discovered? Have we failed? Damn Charles and his great plan. Soon the object of this mission will be safe beneath the bridge. Hark! A shot! Yes, he actually said hark. When was the last time any American used that word unironically? Probably when Millard Fillmore was president. A shot was fired from the 6th floor of the schoolbook depository. I saw the smoke. I saw Oswald reload. The president did a complete flip. His wife tried to flee on foot in panic. Another shot. Still another. The president's car is racing away at high speed. A bloody foot hangs over the side. In real life, President Kennedy did not flip over and his foot did not hang over the side of the car. A few hours after the assassination, Ritzek writes, "The police have announced that they have a prime suspect in custody. This isn't good. Oswald wasn't meant to be taken alive." The master craftsman decides to take care of the problem. On the night of November the 23rd, the pair hypnotically hire an executioner, a tavern owner. He was in the process of closing his place of endeavor when we happened to encounter him. I detected true grief and sincerity, and I expressed likewise. Soon a friendship was formed, and Charles and I were invited into his establishment for a drink. This tavern owner is, of course, Jack Ruby. The author of this diary apparently did not know that Ruby kept the Carousel Club shuttered all day on Saturday, November the 23rd. Ruby would not have been closing the place that evening. They hypnotize Ruby, and he kills Oswald the next day. From the diary, "The innocent must pay for the whimes of the guilty, evermore. Kick against the pricks, nevermore." Donald Trump could not have tweeted it better. Eric celebrates Christmas by murdering Charles with an invisible rattlesnake. The magic of hypnosis makes the bite seem real. Why did Charles have to die? Because he was, quote, acting like a human, and I couldn't tolerate that. Cue the music. I shall return home before the expiration of the holidays and report in full to our superiors. I regret having to report to Charles's paramount weakness, but it must be reported to prevent such a recurrence in future experiments with the people of the planet called Earth. In the 10 years that we have been stationed here, Charles showed an overwhelming weakness and desire to be a human being. Well, of course, you knew that was going to happen. Believe it or not, the Ritzek Diary manages to become even crazier. January the 3rd, 1964, Ritzek writes, "Alas inuch hainauk, evermore." Well, this may seem like Welsh, but it doesn't mean anything. It's followed by what appears to be a lengthy mathematical equation, also meaningless. Habitually, Ritzek reproduces the outward form of learning without being able to conjure up the reality. For in the end, the only true reality is the grave. Hello, fire. The so-called dearly departed are useless, old, stinking, rotten failures. Ritzek, the master craftsman, has learned the ultimate lesson. Everything is meaningless because everything ends in death. You didn't exist longer than you existed. You will be dead longer than you've lived. Why bother? And with those words, the master craftsman vanishes into the void. Quoth the Ritzek, nevermore. What to make of all this? I try to keep an open mind, but I feel safe in rejecting the theory that JFK was murdered by a morbidly depressed space alien who, motivated by Nietzschean delusions of grandeur, became the world's greatest hypnotist. The diary was obviously written in 1964, not 1963. Although Ritzek claims to be in college, he writes like a not terribly bright high school student. Note the deficient vocabulary, the cliched imagery, the lack of literary or historical references, and especially the juvenile attitude towards sex. Note too the narcissism, the preoccupations with conquest and inadequacy, the obsession with death.
You don't know how to make people like you, and you find yourself holding a grudge against them. They think you're different.
All of these factors suggest adolescence, or at least arrested development. That said, writing this book did require a fair amount of effort. It would have all gone to waste if the guys at Continental Trailways had tossed it into the trash. What if they had never contacted the FBI? On the other hand, what if they had contacted the media? Absurd as it is, the diary definitely intrigued someone at CIA. They asked for a transcription. Agent Gimberling, who had many very important things to do, painstakingly created a copy which captured every misspelling and grammatical error. Naturally, the CIA's interest arouses my interest. What made them so keen to see this thing? I suspect that alarm bells rang when someone at the agency learned that the diary was about hypnosis. At that time, very few outsiders knew that the CIA had spent the previous 12 years delving deeply into that topic. As noted earlier, there are many indications that the author of the diary wrote while in a trance. If the author was hypnotized, who was the hypnotist? Did Eric place himself in a trance? Maybe someone whose last name is Ritzek can finally tell us who the hell was or is Eric Ritzek? At a time when the country was still in mourning, why did he tell such a big lie about the JFK assassination?